This is Gnostic Media Podcast number 2 with your host, Jan Irvin. Today I have a very special guest here with me, Professor John Rush, who is Professor of Anthropology at Sierra College in Rocklin, California. He teaches magic, witchcraft, religion, physical anthropology, and physical anthropology lab. He is a neuropathic doctor and medical hypnotherapist in private practice. He teaches a few specialty areas, including human communications, systems theory, symbolism, cults, and he even participated in a cult for 3 years. And he's a expert in tattooing and scarification, herbs, both medicinal and hallucinogens, clinical anthropology, and the use of anthropological concepts and models in clinical settings. Professor Rush is the author of at least 7 books, including Stress and Emotional Health in 1999, Spiritual Tattoo in 2005, The 12 Gates in 2007, and just released today his book Failed God, Fractured Myth in a Fragile World, which I'm excited to have him on, and welcome aboard, John.
Well, thank you very much. That's a wonderful introduction. I hope I can live up to all that.
Well, I'm sure you'll be just fine. So tell us a little bit about yourself. How did you get involved in this field of study, or these fields of study?
Well, okay, I was alerted to hallucinogens certainly as a graduate student. There's a great deal of information within the anthropological literature. It's sort of stuck away in journals and requires time and energy to go into the libraries, as you know, as a researcher going in and digging this stuff out. I also had the opportunity as a graduate student to make friends with a Catholic priest who was also studying anthropology at the time, and he told me a lot of things I didn't quite understand at the time, but in 1970 it started to make some sense with John Allegros' book, The Sacred Mushroom and the Cross. Now, in 1970, I don't exactly know what I knew, but I certainly didn't know enough to write anything about this, but I, kept my eyes and ears open. And as time went on, I began to collect more and more information in the aspect of hallucinogens and religion. In the Hindu tradition, for example, my studies in ancient Egypt tend to reveal similar things that I was finding in the Hindu tradition as well, although in the ancient Egyptian tradition, a lot of things they didn't write about. They didn't write about how to embalm a body, for example, but we know how to embalm a cow. And the reason for that is that people were dying every day, and they didn't need to write it down. They had the information. Excuse me, I've got allergies here today. But they did write down about the sacred cow because they only embalmed a cow once every 20 years, and if the people died in the meantime, they would lose the information they needed to do that. They didn't write a lot about, at least openly, about the use of hallucinogens. However, in their anointing oils, the Osiris round, the cycle round of Osiris, we start to see at least bits and pieces of Osiris actually being the mushroom itself. And I wrote about this in the 12 books. Now, this really came home to me in 2001.
12 gates, you mean?
My wife, pardon me?
The 12
gates,
gates, you mean? Oh, you
yeah.
said the 12 books, okay.
Oh, the 12 gates, yes, sorry. This really came home to me in 2001. My wife and I went to Europe specifically to look at the symbolisms in the basilicas and the cathedrals. I didn't exactly know what I was going to find. Leaving Rome, we had a couple of pictures. We were able to get close enough to some mosaics that were rather suggestive of mushrooms. I'm not sure exactly what type they were, but they appeared to be mushrooms. But it really came home when we walked into St. Mark's Basilica in Venice. Now, St. Mark's is an operating cathedral. It's in operation. but it's also a tourist area, and they kind of lead people through like cattle. And if you delay too long and look too long at some of the mosaics, you get people running out from the arches telling you to move along and so on and so forth. Well, this happened one too many times with us, and my wife got a little bit suspicious, and so we backtracked. And lo and behold, right there was Jesus, and this is on the cover of the Failed God book. There was Jesus with the Amanita muscaria mushroom in his hand, surrounded by what appeared to be psilocybin-type mushrooms. Now, when I described this image in my book, I didn't get into a lot of detail because I didn't want to get into a lot of discussions about Adam and Eve and all that business. So I mentioned, male and female that were by the feet of Jesus. And as you look at the picture, you see Jesus with a mushroom in his hand, and in his left hand, and with his forefinger, he's pointing to his right hand, the hole in his right hand, and then his forefinger in his right hand is pointing to himself. Now, pointing in Christian art is very, very important, as you know, because it tells the viewer what to look at and what's significant. And so in that one picture alone, it's telling you that Jesus was the mushroom. Jesus was an experience. He was not a real, live, living human being, as far as I can determine. There's no evidence for him. There's no historical visibility. In fact, they had to invent that. Eusebius was one of the instigators of that, probably under pressure from Constantine to do this, probably threat of torture or whatever. I'm not sure what really went on there. At any rate, when we got back to California and started looking at the photos we'd taken close up and personal, and again, the average person wouldn't have been able to see these things. You can't walk up to these mosaics in these sacred spaces and start looking at them without having somebody run out and tell you, what are you doing? You can't bring a ladder into these places to get up to see these things. But with a good camera, you can take the pictures and look at them. Now, with manuscripts, it's the same thing. Manuscripts were usually for the elite, and they could control the images there because the average person wouldn't have access to that. So they could keep this under wraps, but no more. To date, I have collected in the neighborhood of about 700 pieces of Christian art, and all of them have the mushroom in it in one form or another. Some are very obvious. Some of the earlier images, for example, from Ravenna. If you can get a picture of in the Ravenna Cathedral or the Basilica there, the main building that you go into, it's kind of hard to see this from where the pews are and so on, but up in the top, there is, at the top of this cupola, there is a mushroom underneath them, and it's obvious that it's a mushroom. It's not stylized or anything. It's a mushroom. It's inverted. It's upside down. Underneath that is the hand of God coming down from that. And then on either side of this hand, we have Moses and Elijah, and in their stoles, that piece of cloth that flows back, in both of those there are mushrooms, and so on and so forth. It's very obvious what this is. The saint is communing with, in this case, Apollinarius. He is communing with the deity using the mushroom, and it was the saints who were worshipped during this time period. There's no pictures of Jesus or anything up until at least until the time of around Constantine, or even maybe a little bit later than that. And the reason for this is that Jesus was an experience. He wasn't a real human being. And this is the big argument that they get into about the Trinity and whether Jesus was all spirit and all human or whatever it is. And this all comes about as these different Christianities that developed back in that time had different ideas as to what Jesus was. At any rate, that's kind of a brief introduction as to where I got involved in this anyway.
Well, that sounds like a fantastic introduction.